What's up, guys? I'm SaltEMike, and this is your Star Citizen Week in Review for August 8th, 2022. CIG is putting interim patches, unplanned patches out to fix live, which is unheard of. They're also working on multi-crew, which is actually happening. It's not just talking about it. And 3.18 is filled with new content. All that and more on today's Week in Review. And as always, if this is your first week in review, this is where I take all of the official Star Citizen news each week, pile it into one video, and share some of my opinions as well. I also live stream on Twitch, twitch.tv/SaltEMike every day but Monday, so I can get this video out to you guys. And I have a second channel, SaltEMike 2, where I've been making some changes and getting a pretty warm welcome to those changes. So thank you for that. But we have a lot to get through, so let's start out with the patch update. And for the first time ever, if not many years, this is the first time CIG has dropped an unplanned patch to resolve an issue with Live before waiting for the next incremental patch. So basically 3.17 to 3.18. You would expect a lot of the big fixes for 3.17 to end up in the 3.18 patch. But I did talk a lot about it on my second channel, SaltEMike 2. So if you guys haven't checked that out, make sure you guys do so. But in short, I feel like it means they actually care. Kind of going back to the letter from the chairman and the roadmap watchers posts, kind of talking about what they were alluding to there. 3.17 to V on the PTU, though. We're going to jump into what it's all about. Feature updates. They changed the way the combat assist beacons populate, as well as how much they pay. They were paying way too much, and we were getting the low versions way too often, and the medium and high threat level stuff almost never. They also made a UI change to shop kiosks where you can't buy all, you can just keep adding plus 10, and then a friends list situation where we are now alphabetical, which is actually really welcomed. Bug fixes, though, there are 3 here that I found to be really important, one being party launching and the other being elevators, and lastly, the ability to send money to players not going into the void. I think we got hit with that one pretty hard this patch. And then lastly, kind of the reason for the patch feels like Siege bug fixes, and they needed them. But I, in general, feel that Siege is never going to feel good until the AI feels good, and we are a long way away from that. We also got our 1 million credit stipend that kind of puts an end to the whole disaster that CIG created for themselves around the launch of 3.17.2. Moving on, though, we're going to go into a lot of other stuff on today's show, so we have a monthly report to jump into. And like most monthly reports, I'm not going to touch on everything here. The post will be linked in the show notes, as well as a SaltEMike 2 video where I went through kind of everything. Not too much in detail, but a lot more line by line than we're going to go through here today. So we're going to jump just into the highlights that I think affect Star Citizen players the most, and we're going straight into ship art. We skip all the AI updates because, again, like I just said before, until we get servers that can actually run the AI they're creating, there's no sense in really getting excited about those updates. So the UK team started on a gray box pass of the Argo SRV. This is the tractor beam ship, in case you guys didn't know. 3 vehicles that are unannounced are in production. One of them is a variant of a current ship. I'm not really sure what that's going to be. And final art on the Misk Hull C. Resource management pass on the Hammerhead is in progress, and I feel like this is a big deal because it's an art pass. That means that they're adding things to the ship, placing things in it, choosing where those things go. That is not your first level design. That is like your actual in-game implementation design, which is a much bigger deal. And then the US team is just working on the Corsair. I feel like we're not going to see this thing in 3.18 because it still feels like there's quite a bit of work that has to go into it. Let me know what you guys think. Then for Arena Commander features, it's really hard not to look at this team as a complete meme. But they are doing everything possible to change that point of view. They are looking into bringing persistent universe locations into Arena Commander for something that we'll talk about a little bit later. But in general, that could make the idea of using Star Marine, using Arena Commander, using racing game modes to improve in the actual MMO, right? So it kind of takes what Arena Commander was always supposed to be and actually make it what it was supposed to be. Characters and weapons, as we've seen over the many PTU patches, they are really diving into player synchronization issues, and in general, it's been a mixed bag this patch. It's definitely improved, but it has its issues, and they're also working on bringing FPS gadgets back into the fold, or just into the fold in general. Gameplay features. Not too much to unpack here. Basically, the Hull A is going to be the first ship with interactable relay points that we will be able to like adjust temperatures and more like life support stuff, as well as a UI to support this work. And as expected, hull scraping is continuing. And I think some people will look at that as a negative, but we'll talk later as to why that is a positive. Online services, there isn't much that I want to share here, but they are talking about a new inventory system that's not player facing, but anything that is improving the current inventory system is better than what we have now. UI, they're really hard at work on the star map still, but let me know what you guys think about this. I look at it as they're diving into the way they want to display space clouds. And when I look at this, I just want to see it work, be easy to use, be intuitive, and work consistently. But as always, CIG is focused on the way things look, and I'm concerned that they're not looking into the way they function. Then lastly, VFX. Similar to the star map, Quantum Travel is getting a VFX pass that, I mean, I don't know if we really even feel that it's needed, but what we do know is that there's going to be some changes to it coming. Quantum Travel in general, the quantum boost thing we've seen in past roadmap updates or monthly reports, I believe. And that's kind of what piques my interest. I just want Quantum Travel to function within whatever the parameters of the new flight system will be, and I don't really care what it looks like. But that'll do it for the monthly report. This one wasn't really meaty, and the roadmap roundup kind of changes that. And this entire roadmap update was for release view cards for 3.18. There's going to be a Daymar crash site, which they've hinted at for a while now, that's going to include multiple ships as well as HABs to combine and become basically what Montreal's been doing the entire time, puzzles and traversal and stuff like that. I really hope we see Montreal moving on to more stuff that I want to see them do more new stuff than what they're currently doing. I want them to kind of jump out of this puzzle and traversal thing, because they really did a great job with that, and I want to see what they do with like missions and things like that as well. New rivers, they'll be added to Microtech, which we know, but what I didn't know, at least, is that in 3.18, they're going to be in Hurston as well. Sand caves, just a different cave archetype. Anybody who's gone to a cave just hopes that the experience inside of the caves improves, but that's about it. And then Arena Commander Racing Overhaul. This is what I was alluding to with the monthly report. They are bringing locations from the PU into Arena Commander, specifically the Snake Pit. I hope we get the track that we see later in the show as well, because this means actual checkpoints, time trials, improving leaderboards, not the community-driven one that's going on now. Not to take away from what the community is doing, I think it's really great, but I just can't get behind that as much as I can get behind a actual in-game system. Sandbox prison activities. Anybody who's been to prison knows that it's kind of lacking and pretty frustrating. So anything that improves prison is fine by me. Security Post Korea reactivation. This is my favorite location in the entire game. I love it. There's great loot there. There's good FPS opportunities there. I've had more fun there throughout my entire career playing Star Citizen than anywhere else. And they are taking it to the next level, I hope. I hope they don't take away what was special about it, and I hope they just improve on it. New missions in Orison, just the standard FPS missions that are going to be at the platforms from Siege of Orison. Nothing too crazy here. New interdiction scenarios and environmental space missions. These two are things that I got kind of both interested in and just more, I want to see how they work. We know that the AI don't work great, so the interdiction scenarios, are we even going to be able to see the scenario? Environmental space missions are more the one that interests me, is as we're traveling around the world, how are we going to be communicated that a new mission has arose and things are happening? So I'm very interested in that. And then lastly, hull stripping is now being added to the Reclaimer, not just the Vulture and the FPS version. So that's why I believe it's still being worked on. And then that'll do it for Roadmap Roundup, just really showing that a lot is going into 3.18. My concern is that with the technical updates that are going into 3.18, all these cool things that sound like a lot of fun might be really frustrating to deal with. Video updates this week were a little stale. I would say that I am most excited about what we had on ISC though, which was a racing feature. And they started out with the snake pit and how they made it and things like that. But this has honestly been kind of beaten to death at this point. And if you don't know what it is, it's a community-made track that a developer kind of got inspired by the community and improved upon. And I want to focus on the misconception of the work that was put into this track and why I think it's actually really awesome.
Using the time between tasks while waiting for other resources to become available and making fun things inspired by the players has led to a number of features, assets, and otherwise neat stuff making their way to the persistent universe over the years.
Personally, I almost never clip out Jared because I think that the whole point of these shows is to have the devs kind of explain their work, and Jared re-explaining that work in between each segment is not really that interesting. But here, I thought it was really, really powerful to explain that what's going on here is an actual developer being inspired by their own community. We've seen developers from CIG be inspired by their own projects. And in this case, you have developers being inspired by the game that they work on, which is really powerful, really strong. And I feel like if you're mad at that, you're almost like feeling that you weren't creative enough to catch their eye and you're upset about that. I don't know. It seems kind of weird. But the next track to me also is just another great example of the own teams that work on the game being inspired by what the community is and what they would want and try to make the community happy here instead of kind of doing their own thing in their free time.
When we finished working on Siege of Orison, my lead approached me and told me about those convention halls, that they are most of the time empty in between the events, and maybe we should fill it with something fun for the player. We collected some ideas and decided to go for a buggy racetrack.
And personally, this is the track I'm most intrigued by. I think most of you guys know that I'm starting to really get into Formula One and racing and things like that. And I think this is just a great opportunity to get in with friends and kind of experience a little miniature version of that. For me personally, though, I really hope this track in particular comes to Arena Commander so we get proper time trials and racing modes and things like that. For SCL, we did have a VFX game dev episode. They made a dome shield or something. Usually this stuff doesn't make it into game, but personally, I feel like this would be a useful one because anytime you get out of your ship, man, it's a pain in the butt. I did a Star Citizen, an Answer the Call about that being the biggest flaw of Star Citizen's design currently, is when you get out of your ship, your ship is the most important thing, but it is so vulnerable in that scenario that you're just left in the dust and it kind of stinks. Then that'll do it for this week's video updates. Again, not much going on there. Let's jump into other updates. Again, not a lot going on here. We had a sneak peek that I wouldn't even consider much of a sneak peek. It was the tractor beam station from the Hull C that we had seen on a sprint report at some point, unless this is one of the unannounced ships. That would be the only reason that this would be a sneak peek, so it possibly is. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Lore, just more lore around Pyro, nothing special here. It's a system that I'm not even sure we're going to see this year. Subflare are flags, little mini flags. What are we supposed to do with these? I don't know. This one's a weird one for me. It feels like it's a bit before their time. I think that these would be really cool if we had a personal place to call our own home that we can place them in, right? But right now, it just seems like a weird collector's item that doesn't mean much. And then the last thing we're going to touch on is Ship Showdown. Community team is taking your videos, promoting and images and things like that to decide what ships are going to be in the tournament. And for me personally, I want to see the Drake Mule or the Grey Cat PTV because I just love seeing the whales who have ships that almost nobody has getting mad that that ship that almost nobody has gets a ship skin, where the ship that a lot of people have is the one getting voted up. And I just love to see that kind of stuff. So I really hope go Grey Cat PTV, and that'll do it for this week's episode. I hope you guys enjoyed this week in review. As always, I enjoy making it, and I will catch you guys next week. But make sure you guys leave a comment. Let me know what you thought about the show. Let me know what you thought about any comments, or any of the topics, I should say, and comment on those. And make sure you guys like the video, share it out there for anybody who you think could use it, because that really helps out a channel, and that'll do it. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you guys next week. I'm so bad at the outros. Jesus.